Hello again, and welcome back to the bonus level podcast. This is level 25. And I'm Jack. Joined with me, as usual, is Josh and Luch. And this week, we have a heated debate for you all. A heated debate of sorts. We're going to be talking about the concept of regulation and legalization. How do you feel about that?
I like it. Well, so one of the main reasons I wanted to bring up this podcast was if anyone listened to the social media podcast, Jack, you were very on the shut it all down. You guys have, you guys are out of privileges. You guys have ruined everything. Just shut it down and go from there. But then I know you personally. We've known each other a long time, so I know how you feel on some different subjects that where you do agree with legalizing and regulating things, but on other things you're like, nope, screw it, take all the privileges away and ban it completely. And so you're kind of almost pick and choose, very opinionated about things, where I try my best to kind of step back and go, just because I like this thing, I understand that someone else may not, or, vice versa, whatever. So I kind of want to have that across the board, like a very even playing field for everybody. And with Luch, I have zero idea where he stands from. So I was really interested in kind of hearing how you came up with your, what areas you agree with on it and what areas that you're like, hell no. And then with Luch, I'm excited to hear his opinion or position on it at all.
I believe in the full distribution and legalization of D&D menus.
Okay. Now we know where he stands.
Yes. Well, I'm just sitting here smoking a doobie, that sweet purple kush.
Disclaimer, we do not condone the use of drugs or alcohol on this podcast unless it's up to your discretion.
Did I say purple kush? I meant purple Fanta.
Don't you wanna Fanta? I think before I break down what my opinions are on each individual thing, I need to kind of give you an idea of where I'm coming from, just on the idea of regulation in general, right? So unfortunately, I know that in the utopia that you're looking for, it's just an even playing field across the board. Like every little thing can be legalized and regulated as long as it's properly taxed, properly distributed, et cetera, right? And that goes from everything from firearms to drugs to prostitution to gambling, right? Like all of these different topics that are banned in some places, legal in other places, regulated in some, you know what I mean? So and honestly, unfortunately, it goes back to a lot of what we talked about in previous episodes about morality and choice and consequence and things like that, because unfortunately, like I said, people can't be trusted with things. People cannot be trusted to make the right decision. Okay. So my issue with most of these things is, where do you draw the line between what is allowed, what's legal, and what's not? What is harmful and what is not, right? And one of the biggest discrepancies probably that most people would find that I have, in my opinion, with these things is I 100% agree with the legalization and regulation of firearms. I think that in the amendment, it clearly states that we have the right to bear arms, that we have the right to protect ourselves from any threats, foreign or domestic, right? So that's those are the those are the words. That's what it stands for. And I believe that very heavily in the way of, at some point in the future, whether it's near nor very far away, there's going to be another revolution, either in America or just in the world, where the government is going to become oppressive, tyrannical, and we will have to defend ourselves. It might not be in my lifetime, it might not be in my children's lifetime, but the idea of the amendments and us seceding from Britain's rule and needing a militia and needing men and women to fight against the government that was oppressive was very real then, and it will be again. And it's just that's the bottom line. And the firearms and being able to protect ourselves in that way, whether it's from somebody breaking into your house or whether it's from the government telling you when you can't or cannot leave your house, is the same thing. It's like I said, protecting yourself internally versus externally. And you might say, okay, well, firearms are very destructive. People get murdered, people get killed by firearms every single day. And so, like, if you want to legalize and regulate them, why would you be against legalizing and regulating something like marijuana, right? Yeah. And while I'm not completely against marijuana as far as like medically, because it has been proven to help medicinally in many ways, and I think that it can be used as such, just like many other plants are used medicinally. I think that once you get to the point where it's legal everywhere, it ends up only benefiting the government. And that's bottom line. So yes, legalization and regulation would tremendously help government because it would bring in all of this extra income, so many more taxes, tax dollars, more jobs, things like that for the distributors, for the stores, the vendors, etc. But the problem is that once it's legal for everybody, now it's okay to have it on your person, to use it whenever you want. And you can't tell me that using something like marijuana doesn't alter your state of mind. No. It's just like alcohol. So then and then again, you go back to like, okay, so how do you regulate it? Is it like you can't come to work under the influence? Is that up to like the place you work? But then it's like, okay, then to step back from that, what about whenever you're in your car? Is it still considered driving under the influence whenever you use it? So there's all of these things, right? And it comes down. And now we're just making more and more things that we have to monitor. Is this guy coming to work high? Is this guy coming to work drunk? Nowadays, if you come to work drunk, like you're fired, right? Like that's just bottom line. You're going to be let go. If you're pulled over and you've been drinking, you're let go. If you come to work high, I mean, it's one of those things where like, is it as easy to detect? Like, does your work, maybe your work doesn't really reflect the fact that you're under the influence, but most people are like, well, whenever I smoke or whenever I use it, it's like I'm mellow and I'm this and I'm that and whatever. Yeah, that's fine. But at the same time, you're altering your state of mind to something that is not natural. So when it comes to substances, whether it's any kind of drug, alcohol, even, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't really see a difference. And I may I might be called a hypocrite because I like to enjoy a drink here and there, but I would never go to work after drinking. I would never, operate a motor vehicle after drinking, like all of these things, like this just wouldn't happen. Yeah. So while I might be a good upstanding citizen, right, and I might follow all these rules, the majority of people, well, maybe not majority, there is a good percentage of people that wouldn't follow those same stipulations, right? So then you have a surplus of people that are driving while under the influence, working while under the influence, all of this extra things, because now it's just legal and anybody can do it or use it whenever they want. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So I know that can sound a little hypocritical because like, okay, well, again, guns and firearms are deadly. Whereas like, oh, well, marijuana is harmless, You don't smoke pot and then go shoot somebody. Right?
Weed doesn't stop people, guns stop people.
The thing is that it's any mind-altering substance, drugs, alcohol. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, unless it's medicinal and being used to treat something. I just can't see it being monitored, regulated in a way that it doesn't affect more people than it wouldn't have in the first place. And that's always my overlying thing. It's like the social media thing, right? Like you were saying, like more, so there's plenty of things that social media does that's good. Yeah. But my thing was always at the end of the argument was like the things that are bad, a lot of those things wouldn't be enabled without social media. And so it's like, yeah, maybe, you know, a lot of people would be more mellow, would be more chill if they were just allowed to, you know, smoke marijuana whenever they wanted. But there's so many other people that are affected by it, whether it's, again, driving, jobs, interactions, social interactions. Like, you're not the same person, so it's giving you the free reign to just be a different person whenever you want. And I think that there's more harm than it is more good that can come out of it just being completely wide open.
It's very interesting. Luch, what are your thoughts on this?
So, I mean, like, again, like, I believe in both. First of all, I believe that, you know, the right to bear arms is definitely one of the things that should be. I think, isn't there a state that you can literally walk around with like a semi-automatic rifle in like public?
Probably Texas, I think.
Multiple states.
Like, you could just. I watched a video about like 2 teenagers were literally just like walking around waiting for cops to pull them over to check to see if it's like automatic or something, just so they can, you know, tell them off. But I was like, wait, they're just walking around with a freaking with the
open carry is a big thing in a lot of states. I think more states than not.
I think you can walk
semi-automatic weapons
too, right? I think you can walk around with swords, right?
I'm not sure about like knives.
There's like a knife law where like you can't have it like a certain length without a license, but once it's past a certain length, you're allowed to like.
It becomes a sword. I don't know. It has to be sheathed at most time. I forget how it works. There's a bunch of different stipulations.
Well, I mean, like, I think that, you know, guns 100%, weed 100%. There isn't, like, you can ask me all day, like, you know, why do I believe that? The reason that guns should be is, one, it's in a fucking amendment. I mean, Jesus, they made this thing. Like, I feel like the amendment should never be taken away from a person. But if someone broke into my house and, you know, they threaten my family, I'm going to shoot them. Jack, I'm sure you're the same way.
Yes.
You know, Josh, I'm sure you're the same way.
Yeah.
And while I do feel that there needs to be some kind of mental health stability that needs to go along with, you know, having a gun, for sure. I don't see any reason why someone can't protect themselves in the open. I mean, you can only have your concealed weapon in your car, right? Or can you have it on your person?
No, you can concealed carry gives you the right to have it whenever.
Yeah, as long as the establishment that you're going into doesn't prohibit it. Like if you're going into a library and it says no guns allowed, then you're not allowed to take it in there.
But government facilities, you can't. But
you know, there's a lot of, you know, you see some street fights and you see, you know, and that can end very quickly by pulling out a gun. Now, obviously, it's up to you or not whether you shoot the person, and there's consequences that go along with that. However, you know, you got people who, you know, open fire in the middle of crowds, and, you know, that might be deterred if there's someone pointing a gun at them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot. I mean, especially with guns, is it's very easy for the millions of people that are responsible with their firearms to go completely unnoticed. And it takes one single person to do something stupid and sheds a horrible light on guns. That you can have millions being good and one person, like it's hard to really even imagine those two numbers side by side together. Like, but millions being good, one person doing something bad, and it just puts a bad taste in your mouth, and you're like, well, crap. Are we thinking about things clearly? Are we doing things the right way? And I don't think that any of us would, you know, I think that we're all on the same page as far as like guns, perfectly fine with them being legal and everything, perfectly on the side of the Second Amendment. I do think that we would probably all like for some of the regulations behind it to be kind of updated, maybe shifted or changed, or, you know, something to kind of fix some of the issues that we're having. But I don't think any of us are wanting to just remove it.
Like my big thing is, when it comes down to it, like I keep imagining this in my head after I said it. Imagine, like, you know, guys pull up in a, get out of their cars. They got guns, maybe 2 guys, and they're about to fire in a group of people. All the people see that they got these guys pointing at their guns, and then you got 30 people all pull out a weapon and point it at those guys.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, come on. I mean, would there be people going down? 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But those guys would be taken down. And while I do believe anybody who opens a fire upon in a crowd needs to be put down, 100%.
I mean, the statistics will back me up on the fact that the states with open or concealed carry
significantly less crimes, right?
Have less, or actually have more civilian arrests / civilian deterrence of crime, because when a crime is happening, there's a higher chance of somebody that's a bystander having a weapon that's able to then take it out and stop the person that's committing the crime.
That video I told you about. Like, once the police officers are like, "Hey, so we checked, it's a semi-automatic rifle. You guys are good to go. Just wanted to let you know that someone saw you, looked automatic. They wanted us to check." And they're like, "Hey, by the way, good job for carrying around your weapon. Here's if you guys want to try out for the police force, yada yada yada." And then he's like, and then the kids are like, "Wait, you don't mind it?" I'm like, "No one's going to commit a crime with you two walking around with a semi-automatic rifle in your hands. Right. So please go about your business."
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, to me, based on what we've gone through so far, mainly with the guns and everything, I think a lot of us are kind of on the same page, that we believe that, having the guns, legalizing and regulation, as far as that goes, the good outweigh the bad. But when we start branching over into the drug area and just dealing with right now marijuana specifically, Jack is not on board with that. And Luch, you said that you were. Is that right?
Well, certain drugs. All right, I'm not going to say, Josh, you go.
But we're just talking about marijuana. No, marijuana.
Marijuana.
We'll dive into like the heroin and acid and psilocybin.
I feel marijuana helps more people than it causes damage to. I don't think
medicinally,
but also recreationally, people get recreationally people get drunk, right?
I mean, yeah, and those people go and get behind the wheel of a car and they kill people, right? So like,
well, not just that, anything can happen from being drunk. People, someone domestic abuse can happen.
Exactly.
Fucking anything can happen.
Exactly. And I feel the same way about alcohol. The alcohol should be.
I'm talking about alcohol, not about marijuana at this time.
Yes, and I'm agreeing with you. I mean, bad things can happen with it. I mean, if it was up to me, like personally, I could do without it. I don't need it. I'm not dependent on it. I like it. I like the way beer tastes. I like the way wine tastes. I like, just mixed drinks, et cetera, et cetera. But if tomorrow a bill passed and said, we were back in the prohibition and we couldn't have alcohol, I would be like, okay, cool. No problem.
Yeah. So Jack is prohibition.
Where I come from,
we have just discovered new ground here. Yeah, people. But
it's interesting. When you come to like the prohibition, people are going to find a way to do it anyways, right? That's when the greatest thing in America came through, the speakeasy, right? You still find them today, and they're super fucking badass. Okay, but what I'm saying is like, first of all, if we became an actual government system where they legalized it, okay, and it became a thing and, everything like that, and the governments had their own places that sold it, there were private businesses that were able to sell it, and then they had to go through a check and make sure that they were good and someone's not getting sold some rotten shit or spiked with something, right? Mm-hmm. One, I feel there would actually be a drop in a lot of marijuana users. Because again, there also comes with that kind of like
people use it because it's illegal.
Yeah,
so
type
the thrill of it being a crime.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? I definitely think that people use it because it's illegal.
I don't know.
I think it would definitely drop in younger people for sure. But again, like I
think it would spike for the older generations. Maybe above 18, it would spike for them. It would drop for the younger people because then it's no longer cool. Yeah. But that's the problem, though. The older people are the ones that are making adult decisions and choices and influencing other people and having the effect on other people.
I think smoking marijuana should exist over smoking cigarettes. In all honesty, smoking kills more people. They do it to themselves. All right. Mm-hmm. And again, like marijuana is something that you can adjust as well. You know, you can put as much THC as you want in that bad boy. You can, you know, sell as good a marijuana as you want. And I feel like if it's regulated, it's checked, you know, it's not illegal. Now, is it something that you shouldn't do while driving? 100%. I still think it should have the same laws as alcohol when it comes to that, right? But if I'm, you know, I don't smoke it, but if I'm, you know, ever wanted to and I want to chill in the back room with my family while, you know, we light up a doobie, then and pass it around. I mean, I don't see what's like. I don't see the problem with that.
Well, I think that's one of the big key things here is the two words together.
Hold on, Josh. One more thing. Yeah. No, and you should not go to work high. That's stupid. Whoever does that, you're an idiot. I don't care. It's like, oh man, but you know, work just causes me so much stress. And I'm like, bro, shut the fuck up. You're a shift leader at McDonald's. All right, bro, calm down.
Yikes.
No, but like I was saying, the two words, it's very important that they go together with legalize and regulate. Because a lot of times, you know, when you're talking about the legalization of marijuana, it's just going, okay, no rules with it, or it's just out there. You're not going to go to jail for having it.
That would be a mistake.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But treating it in the same way as alcohol, looking at it under the same microscope and having the different regulations. You know, one of the things that kind of got me thinking about this along with the social media podcast was a different podcast I was listening to on addiction, where it was a cop was kind of telling the story on how when he was working undercover that he had a bunch of teenagers come up to him and say, hey, you know, we can't buy alcohol. Can you go into the store and, you know, get us a pack of, you know, 12 pack or whatever. And the cop's like, no, just fuck off. You know, he wasn't going to arrest the kids because they were younger or whatever.
Yeah,
but he was
but that's
going to kind of fuck off. But what they did and what he watched them do was literally run around the side of the building to where a guy was selling drugs and buy the drugs and run off from there while he's then tries to make the arrest. But it's like, that's the thing. A drug dealer does not give a shit about carding you. Where like once the liquor store, they have an obligation. They are legally bound that the penalties against them, if they, I mean, of course, I'm sure we have all seen plenty of times where we have all not been carded. Like, I think the rule's supposed to be like, if you're under the age of 55, that you should be carded, or every single person that purchases it should be carded. And we know that doesn't happen. But at the same time, if you know anything about the rules, the fines, and the licenses, and being able to get that kind of stuff revoked, it's seriously intense. And so the fact that teenagers can go one way and get turned down for alcohol, but can easily go to anybody and buy weed because of the regulations behind the two, that's something that to me just kind of seems silly. And hearing it like the way that guy explained it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just think once you open that floodgate, it's like, okay, where do you stop it? Because, you know, all right, if you say, all right, we need to legalize marijuana and then regulate it so it can be taxed and distributed, you know, in accordance to whatever laws and statutes they start. Okay, what about other recreational drugs? What about drugs that are given for medication but are abused? What about harder drugs, cocaine, marijuana, or heroin, you know, meth, things like that are extremely harmful. You know, on one hand, you have, well, just legalize it, tax it, and then the people that abuse it, you know, they'll weed out the population of people that, you know, we're going to abuse it anyway. And, you know, why not just let them off themselves?
So mainly dealing with marijuana first and then kind of getting into some of those other drugs. I understand what you're saying as far as like knowing where's the line to stop. And I definitely want to get into that because that's where I have a lot of my information that kind of blew my mind and everything. But a lot of what I think about when I think about the regulation type stuff, is one of the things is there were, looking at the stats for, according to the FBI crime statistics, there were 587,000 people arrested in 2016 for marijuana related crimes, more than for all violent crimes like murder, rape combined. So what you're looking at with just that kind of stuff, because yes, I understand the fact of, if we regulate, we're talking about putting a lot of money into the government's pockets, that we're basically making them rich on the addictions or, vices that we have as people. But at the same time, we're looking at the fact of, right now, people are doing it whether it's legal or not. There were 600,000 arrests back in 2016. I don't know what those numbers, I didn't see them for 2018 to know what they were.
Is that just like possession or selling, or are those crimes related to the fact of like people being high or driving under the influence, or what are those stats?
Marijuana related crimes. So that could be anything that has to do with marijuana itself. A lot of those, you're dealing with a minor that has super easy access to a drug that, like I said, can't go into a store, but can easily ask a friend of a friend, hey, do you have any weed? Yeah. Do you have $20? Super different scenario there. Gets busted by it. And now anytime that they get a job, if there's a background check run on it, it says that they were arrested for drug related issues. Now, if you guys have applied for any jobs recently, you know that no one calls you and says, we want to thank you for coming in, but you're not the person that we're going to choose on this. No, they don't call you back, like, ever. So you have all these people that have this kind of thing on their resume. A business doesn't have to give any reason for not hiring a person, for the most part, unless it's like very obvious that it was a racial discrimination type thing, that a person at the age of 13, 14, 15, even 18, I did a lot of stupid shit at 18, 19, 20, 30, whatever, that if that were still on my record from doing that to making it harder for me to find a job, that is a very, very devastating thing. We also, one of the big things that I think about when I think about drugs in general is taking a step back and looking at where it's very easy, like I said, to see the big pharma or the big government fucking over people. What we don't see a lot of times, because we are here in the US, is the other side of that is making money now that it's illegal, which is the organized crime, the cartel, the mob, the gangs, that kind of thing. Those are the people that are making money hand over fist right now, where if we regulate it the other way, yes, it's government and you could choose which is the worst of the two evil. But from what I've been, learning and reading about, you watch like the Narcos, and Pablo Escobar, and like the amount of freaking money that's going on there. But then these gangs and cartels are notoriously violent. And yes, a lot of that doesn't fall in our streets and our suburbans where we see the weed being distributed. But I mean, do you kind of see what I'm talking about there, where it's like the money's going into either one of two hands? As long as it's illegal, it's going into the criminal, it's going to the cartel, it's going to the mob hands, where the other way, you're looking at more the government type things, where like, yeah, I don't like either option really, but I do feel like I'd rather see it go one way than the other way.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. So when you drive down the street, and the speed limit says 55, and you go 70 or 80, and you get pulled over for speeding, and the cop says, do you know why I pulled you over? And you go, I don't know, I was maybe speeding. And he was like, you were going 80 in a 55, here's your ticket. And you go, well, hold on a second, I wasn't hurting anybody, there's nobody around. And he goes, I'm sorry, sir, that's the law, the speed limit's 55, it's, you drive the speed limit or you get a ticket. Do you get to go, oh man, that's so unfair, I can't believe I got a ticket, I can't believe it's on my record, I can't believe I got points on my license? No, you don't. It's the law. So tell me why somebody gets charged with a marijuana crime and it's on their record and they have a hard time getting a job, that's anybody else's problem but their own. It's not. It's their problem because they disobeyed the law. They broke the law. The law clearly states that you cannot be in possession of marijuana. You cannot distribute marijuana, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, down the line. Yeah. Okay. So anybody that breaks the law, right, and gets caught doing it and then gets the penalty of the law and the repercussions of it has no right to say anything or be like, oh, well, it should be legal in the first place. I can't believe I got arrested. I can't believe I got charged with it. I can't believe it's on my record. Well, if you wouldn't have done it in the first place, you wouldn't have that problem. It's not an excuse. My point is, it doesn't matter your opinion on it. It's not an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely not an excuse to make it legal. It's definitely not an excuse to be like, well, it should just be, regulated and then all of these crimes would go away. Well, okay, well, there's speed limits and yet millions of people get ticketed for speeding every year.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. If you don't like it, move somewhere where it's legal. Now there's states where it's legal and there's plenty of other countries where it is. Mm-hmm. If you don't like the freedoms that you have, go somewhere else. And going back to like what I'm not like 100% for prohibition, but the point is that alcohol again does more harm than good.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, the benefits of enjoying a glass of wine or a beer or a cocktail, right,
mm-hmm.
are far fewer than the negative side effects of drinking and driving, being under the influence, spousal abuse, just domestic abuse, date rape, anything that that may happen, just bad decisions.
Yeah.
The amount of shitty decisions that people have made over the years because they were drunk, right? Just in general, it's not an excuse, and I'm not excusing myself from that.
No,
right? because I'm guilty of it. But that's my point: is that if it was illegal, then all of a sudden, that's no longer an issue. That's no longer something that's like, oh, well, now I have to decide whether I want to do it or not.
But I think that was like the whole thing with ending the prohibition was that they found that, one, people were going to do it anyways. And then two, that it caused more harm when it was illegal than it was when it was legal. Because like I said, if you look at the example of kids if you're dealing with your own personal kids, and your kids have a chance to go to a liquor store to try buying alcohol underage, or sending them to a drug dealer to go buy drugs, like, which of those would you rather your kid do? It's like, better them try
that's not the question.
Liquor store and get turned away from that kind of
But that's absolutely not the question. That's like saying, well, your kid's going to either rape somebody or he's going to murder somebody. Which one would you rather do?
No, it's
they're
not
both
that at
bad.
All. No, but I'm saying if they go to the liquor store, they're going to get turned down because they're going to get carded. They're going to get carded. They're going to get turned down, and
then they're going to if that's the route that they're taking. If my kids are choosing to go to the liquor store underage to try to get alcohol, then they're going to do it some other way, right? Like because they're clearly not on the right path. They're not making.
That's what I'm saying. They'll always find a way.
They're not correcting. They're not correcting. They're not going down the right path. They're not choosing the correct decisions. My point is that you don't just be like, all right, well, you're going to choose the wrong thing, so might as well make it legal. Like what? No.
But no, that's the thing. I'm not saying that you make weed legal to these teenagers at that point. But I'm saying, like, if you have a way to regulate, like, you don't see kids going and they're going like buying booze from drug dealers or anything, because it's not the same. It doesn't have the same stigma around it that it used to, like when it was illegal and stuff like that. Now the way that drugs are, kids, it's easier for kids to get drugs than it is for them to get the other, like alcohol, because of the way that alcohol is regulated at this point. I mean, other than maybe if they're raiding their own parents' fridges or something like that. But
here's the thing, and I mean, I don't know, you can tell me that I'm wrong or not, but at the end of the day, your kids are going to make the decisions that they're going to make no matter what, but you hope that you raise them in the way that they make proper decisions. And this may be a side effect of me and being raised in a very strict household, but I ultimately made the decisions that I made for myself. I didn't touch a single drop of alcohol until I was after I was 21. until it was illegal. Not a single drop. I had plenty of opportunities. I went to college. I mean, I didn't. I actively chose not to because it was illegal. Now, you can call me a square, you can call me whatever you want, but the point is that I never made that decision so that nothing ever could happen to me during that time that I could then look back and be like, wow, if I wouldn't have done that, my life would not be XYZ.
Okay, but
and that's bottom line, and that's with anything. That's with drugs. That's with alcohol. If you raise your kids properly, you teach them moral standards, moral high ground, and you hopefully you raise them in the right way to make the right decisions. They will make mistakes, yes, but you hope that they will not make decisions that will impact their future in a huge way like that. So the answer isn't would I rather have them buy alcohol or buy weed? It's not the answer is I would hope that they would choose to do neither of those things.
Yes.
Not an alternative, not like, oh, well, one is the other. It's the whole, would we rather have Clinton or would we rather have Trump? Well, they're both bad. So like, what do you do? Well, the one's the lesser of two evils. No, you get somebody in there that's actually going to do the country good.
No, and that's the thing. I don't think
we'll choose one over the other.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think I said it correctly when I was saying, like, I wasn't trying to say, would you rather your kids purchase alcohol or would you rather them purchase drugs? I was mainly talking about the fact, would you rather them be dealing with a gas station attendee that's telling them no, they can't get it, or dealing with a drug dealer that's behind a gas station? That's what I was meaning with that. But mainly, with the fact of you saying that you weren't doing drugs or anything because of the fact of it being illegal. Like I said, all this, it's the two keywords together of legalize and regulate, where if they had the same regulation with weed, I don't know all the rules of what they have out in California or Colorado or anything, but let's say it's the same as what they have with alcohol here. You would have to be 21 to purchase it. Therefore, you doing it before 21 would have been illegal. So therefore, there wouldn't have been any difference. If they would have had it legal in your state, except you had to be 21 to get it, then you would have done the same thing that you did. You just wouldn't have done it because it would have been illegal because you weren't of age to do it. And so there's not really a difference as far as that's concerned, because we're still dealing with the fact of, if we're dealing with kids and things, there has to be more of the regulations because they are crazy. They do tend to do things that without thinking ahead of what their future is and everything. What I'm more talking about is almost in some ways having a little bit of compassion where doing something stupid doesn't fuck you the rest of your life over something that literally, if you were 1 mile east or west, depending on where your state is, that it wouldn't have been an issue at all. That kind of thing is something I have an issue with. But I would like to, I feel like we've stayed on this one topic a lot. And I think that, this is a subject that can go super deep. We could probably talk about this one for 6, 7, 8 hours and none of us ever really change where we're coming from. I don't think that I'm even the best to be able to kind of explain everything that I would like to explain with it. But I would like to kind of get some ideas on some of these other factors. Like if we're talking about, I already know where you stand on marijuana. What about any drug past marijuana?
Hell no.
I would assume for you it's about the same. With Luch, I guess would be the
obviously no. A resounding.
Are we talking about like meth and stuff like that? Or are we talking like about Tylenol?
No, we're talking about
hard drugs, right?
Psilocybin mushrooms. We're talking about acid. We're talking about cocaine. We're talking about
Jesus, Josh, you're a little bit too much on that on the left side of that way.
Well, well, I'll let you.
No, he's just bringing it up. He's just bringing it up because it's in the same topic of legalize and regulate. But this goes back to what I said originally. It's like, well, where do you draw the line? If you draw it like, oh, well, marijuana is okay, but maybe a little cocaine's not, and it's like, okay, why? So tell me why cocaine is different, because you can die and people don't die from marijuana. You can't overdose on marijuana. No, you can't overdose on marijuana, but you can be too high that you don't go to work and lose your job. You can be too high that you completely disregard your relationship or your family members, and you become a lazy POS. Like, so just because you can't OD means that it's okay. Like, and that's why I said, like, you can't just draw the line in the sand of what drugs are okay and what aren't. They're either all bad or they're all fine. It's mind altering substances. It's mind altering substances that you're using to change your state of mind, the way that you feel, and at the end of the day, like, the severity of it doesn't really matter. You're literally changing your chemical balance, the chemical balance of your brain, and it doesn't matter on a scale of like, oh well, this one is severely harsh, and if you take just an ounce too much, you'll kill yourself, versus, oh well, if you just smoke a little bit too much, you'll miss your shift of work. Okay, well. They can have equally devastating consequences. You might think like, oh, well, you missed a shift at work. Okay, well, if you're smoking all the time and you're chronically late and you're lazy and whatever it might be, and obviously I'm just going very stereotypical here, but if that happens, maybe you lose your job and you're like, okay, well, you can get a new job. Well, maybe you can't get one fast enough and you get kicked out of your apartment. Okay, now you're homeless, and and it's just a domino effect of the things that happen. Why? Because you decided you needed to change your mind. You were just a little bit too you were a little bit too high strung
on weed itself, and not really with the legalization and regulation of it, because a person could easily do that right now whether or not it's legal,
right? And they will.
Exactly.
But that's the thing, is that the more people don't, because it's illegal, right? They won't, because they'll make that choice to be like, well, it's not worth it because it's illegal. I'm not going to get a criminal charge pressed on me just so I can let off some, take the edge off after a hard week at work. And that's the fact that it is illegal in most places. Basically, they keep that at bay. And I just don't see how that you can throw all the drugs into a basket and say, well, this one is fine and it should be legalized and regulated, but the rest need to be completely banned. Like, if you're talking about letting the the cat out of the cage, let them all out, let them all free, legalize them all. You can go down to Rite Aid and pick up heroin if you want. You can shoot it up in your car, and then you can spend the rest of your life either cracked out or in jail. Like, that's your choice.
Yeah, one of the reasons, or the podcast that I listened to on addiction, and one of the things that really piqued my interest when it came to this person talking about the legalization, and I think it was maybe not I think the word that they were using for certain drugs was the decriminalization of certain drugs. And there's been, if you look up the decriminalization of drugs in Portugal, there has been a massive study on this, with the entire country decriminalized all drugs. And basically what they kind of set up was, so if you look at, with someone, I don't know, maybe they made some mistakes, now they have a heroin addiction. Their choices for getting clean are few and far between, where people look at them like they're pieces of shit. If they go to pretty much anybody for help, there's a high chance that they're going to get thrown in prison. There's danger in them trying to purchase the drugs. There's all these different terrible things that could happen with a person just trying to get clean, where basically what Portugal did was they decriminalized some of these harder drugs and basically said, if you come to our clinic, we will give you that drug and a dose from 0 to whatever is the maximum you can handle without it killing you. And we're going to monitor you and help you and, things like that. And they set up programs for these people to help them get back on their feet, to get jobs, to, all these different kind of things to help these people, to kind of get them out of the place that they were at.
Right, but when you're saying that they are they're giving the drugs or giving them access to it, is that so that they can come down off of it? Like they're giving them, like, weaning them off of it, so they're giving it to them? Or are they like literally like, hey, I'm addicted to crack, can I have some? And they just hand it out. Like, what do you mean?
They would hand it out to them, but the person had to use it inside the facility.
And then what? Had to stay in the facility to get sober?
I don't know. I don't know if they had to stay in there to sober up or what they ended up doing with it. But I mean, basically, like, because what Portugal was kind of looking at with this is have you guys heard the study that was done called Rat Park?
No.
So basically what they had was there was a big study that was done, I think it was back in the 70s, where they had a rat in a cage with a water bottle full of water and then a water bottle with heroin in it. And time after time after time, the rat would try the heroin and end up just using it to the point that it would OD and die. And so that's where we got a lot of our original ideas on that drugs are addicting and drugs will take over your life, and you will eventually, if you have them, you will overdose and die. And then there was a study that was done where they kind of started picking apart that study and go, okay, so you're talking about a rat that was stuck in a cage and had two choices, and that was it. So, like, if think about a prisoner being stuck in solitary confinement and they have either water they could take or they can have heroin, and those are their two choices. So this guy's like, all right, well, let's try looking at this from another angle. So he built what was called Rat Park. So he had, in Rat Park, they had areas that they could exercise, wheels to play on. They had female rats that they could mate with. They had food. They had all these different things that the rats could do. And basically, the rats, while they would try the drug or whatever on occasion, 0 rats overdosed during the entire year-long study. None of the rats ever killed themselves or anything. And so they started looking at the fact of it not being, the rats not taking the drug as much because of the drug itself, but more of the environment that it was in. You're talking about one rat being stuck in a solitary confinement, kind of shitty life, and taking drugs till it died. And these other ones where their life was all right and they weren't killing themselves with drugs. And so that's why Portugal started kind of trying out this study. Was what they wanted to look at was, instead of all the hatred going towards the drug that people were using, was more looking at why are so many people using this drug? What can we do to help get their lives in a better place? And so, yes, with the United States, it is a massive, massive place, especially in size to Portugal. Because I think the 2 countries that have done it are Sweden and Portugal right now, that have done the decriminalization and are having massive changes within their countries. And a lot of it is coming from the way that they're looking at things, and more looking at the people with the addictions as people that are needing help rather than as criminals, which is the way that we look at a lot of these drugs. And that's why, one of the reasons that I find this topic, the whole legalization and regulation topic, really fun, is because it's really a mind expanding process. Because when you look down on it, and you get to just looking at alcohol itself, we could all see that alcohol, God, watch a person get drunk. They're the most annoying fucking person on the planet. They do stupid shit, car accidents like crazy, liver cirrhosis like crazy. There's all these different crappy things that come from it. Same thing, pot. There's all kinds of crap that comes from that. Looking at other drugs, we're going to get into, prostitution and gambling and those kind of things. And we can definitely see where things like that can ruin people's lives. But what I'm talking about is almost just backing up, like you're on Google Earth, and instead of being zoomed into a particular state or suburb or whatever, zooming back to where you see the whole planet, where we want to get the whole picture of how things are being run, how things are being handled. Because like I said, I would agree with you that, me, for the most part, I don't like anything messing with me. I don't do any drugs. I've tried a little bit of everything over the course of my life, just to basically, I wanted to know what that was like. I was curious and I wanted to try it out. None have I stuck with ever. I don't like anything. Drinking, I will do socially on occasion, typically once a month. I'll have a beer or something if I go to a concert or to a sporting event or something. So I'm not even a big drinker. But I look at things, and especially watching, I like the older films, like on the Prohibition and stuff. And to me, like when I watch those and you see that was how organized crime got started, where if you think of just alcohol, if it's legal and it's distributed and people can have it, a lot of people, they just like having a beer or something like that. During the Prohibition, it was like, okay, I'm not going to risk my life and going to prison over taking a 12-pack to somebody. So that's like, what was the popular thing during the Prohibition? It was the fucking moonshine. It was, how can we fit as much fucking alcohol into this as possible? There's no one regulating it. When you were getting the jar of moonshine out of the back of someone's car, who knows what the hell was in there? You had no idea. We know the FDA goes through all of our alcohol, all of the beer, everything. It has ingredients listed on the side. You know that they're reputable companies. If I go to Kroger and I purchase it, I know what I'm getting. Whereas if alcohol were illegal, I have zero idea what I'm getting. I'm getting a mason jar full of something that someone is telling me is moonshine, and I could take a sip of it and I could die instantly. And yes, that could be my fault because I'm doing something illegal. But at the same time, like I feel like, I don't know, like I don't see why, if I'm a grown adult wanting to do something, why someone else should be able to tell me what to do. Now, I'm not saying that everything should just be a free for all, just go out there and go buck wild. I like the regulation, the same way with guns. Like I said, I'm on the same page with you guys as far as guns, where I believe that everyone should have the right to have one. Except if you're certain people with felonies, people with massive mental disorder, different things like that are regulated to try to keep them from having these guns. And that's the same kind of way that I feel like if I'm at a sporting event and I want to have a beer, I don't see anything wrong with that. And I don't want someone to be able to tell me that I can't. And to other people, I know people that weed is like that to them, that they would rather have that. And I feel extremely hypocritical, saying that one is worse than the other, because with that, I am no scientist. I have not seen the studies on a person's body, and I haven't done the research on how the statistics have gone in Colorado and California. And I mean, now I think there's like 13 different states that it's legalized in. That, to me, I feel like it's kind of growing to that point, and I'm all for the regulation of it. I don't think that it's for kids, even at this point. Kids today, they're still going to sneak out. And I mean, I didn't wait till I was 21 to have my first drink of alcohol, just like most kids aren't. If weed is legal at 21, they're not waiting till 21 before they're doing weed for the first time. But at least, we can have some kind of regulation. We can start getting things out of the hands of more of the criminals and kind of taking them down different paths.
Here's the thing, right? So I forget in what state this just passed, but now it's illegal in some states. There's one state in particular, I think it's one of the northern states, Pennsylvania or something like that, where it's actually illegal to smoke in a car with a child or children below the age of 6.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me why. At the age of 6, a child becomes capable of inhaling cigarette smoke into their lungs without harm. So tell me what genius thought that up and passed that law, right?
Fucking idiots. Yeah.
If it's not illegal at all, and if the parent's head doesn't get punched in by somebody because they think that that's okay to not have the windows down at the very least, and if they can't just control the fact that they need to have a cigarette in general until the kids get out of the car, then I don't even know what. But the fact that we passed a law that's like, no, you need to wait until at least 6, and then you can ruin their lungs after that. Wait till they're fully developed and then ruin them.
So do you know what the law was before that?
Yeah, it was legal.
Yeah. So, I mean, is what you're saying here, is it going in I'm trying to get your perspective on it because yes, no, I agree that
that's completely pointless. That's my point, is that this is the kind of legislation and regulation that we're going to see. It was just passed in Florida that smokable marijuana is legal for medicinal purposes, and I think you can have something like, what the heck is it? I didn't. It's a lot of weed anyway.
Yeah,
I don't remember what the gram is or whatever, or ounce, but it's a lot that you can have on your person at one time now. This is the kind of legislation that we're going with. So like, yeah, it's just for medicinal purposes, but apparently it's really easy to get a medicinal card. You go in and tell them you have anxiety and that, you suffer from stress, and they're like, here you go. Yeah, you pay for the card, blah, blah, blah. But now you can just get it just to get it. I mean, oh, yeah, I have it. Yeah, I get anxious a lot. My point is that we can't be trusted. Humanity as a whole cannot be trusted with these substances. We've proven it time and time and time again.
Yeah, but you're talking about having to remove these things from the planet Earth, because I mean, like you said, it's not legal if medicinally you don't need it. It's not legal for you to have it, but you're saying it's
but you can make it up and just say like, oh, well, I have anxiety. How are they going to prove that you don't?
Exactly. So they're breaking the law and getting it. Right. So I mean, I understand. So yeah, they're breaking the law. So like, it's the same as if it's 100% illegal. If it's 100% illegal, or if it's medicinally, people are still going to get it. So having it regulated as well as possible, I think is what you would overall aim for, because you're not getting rid of it completely, and having it illegal the way that it is now is just ridiculous. Because I could tell you, like, I could probably leave and be back here in 30 minutes and I could have weed on me. Like, and it's completely illegal in my state, but it wouldn't take me any more than 30 minutes and $20 to be back here sitting at my computer talking to you guys before our podcast ended with weed. Like, that's how readily available it is.
I guess that's my point, though. That's my point, is that it's illegal now, and that's how readily available it is. And you think that it's going to go down if it's legal and regulated? No, absolutely not. It's going to skyrocket up, and the negative side effects are going to be widely more visible. And that's, I don't know. We can't be trusted with this stuff.
Skyrocket up, though.
I don't see how you can. You just told me that you could get it within 30 minutes, and it's illegal in your state. How fast do you think you're going to be able to get it once it's legal?
Exactly, but that's the thing, though.
But that doesn't change the choice of whether or not I have it right now. Like, if I wanted to get it, I could get it. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's no difference in it being legal in my state right now.
All it does is it opens up to the people that wouldn't get it because it's illegal. Now they can.
Both of you, shut your beautiful mouths.
Yes. All right, please, Luch.
So I kind of disagree with you there, Jack. And the reason why I say that is, right, Josh is readily available to him. He can go find a drug dealer. He can go buy it. But the thing is that if it's regulated, right, the government has their hand in it. If it goes into large corporate hands, okay, right now there's like a monopoly on it. You know, people can charge whatever they want for it. They can charge as high or they can charge as low for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it becomes regulated, when it becomes taxed, let's say Walmart starts going into Wally's weed world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's super cheap and it's not bad, right? Why would you go to your drug dealer who's selling it to you illegally when you can go buy it legally for cheaper at this store? And they can sell it in smaller quantities, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could buy, one session worth of it for maybe like $2.50 at Walmart, right?
Well, and also it's like the moonshine thing. You know what you're getting when you're getting it from a store where they would have it regulated. Yes,
Okay. So and while it might skyrocket, Jack, I think it would skyrocket legally, and you would see a lot of people not buying from their sources anymore. And when they don't buy from their sources anymore, that's where it's like, a win for the war on drugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because, most drug dealers, they can still make their money off, heroin, cocaine, shrooms, but a lot of them, they make a good, healthy amount of money off marijuana. And when you completely annihilate that marketplace, because now it's legal, government's in on it, corporations are in on it, they're selling it for cheaper and they're regulating it and they're able to, guarantee like, hey, there's no roofies in this. Like, why the hell would anybody go to their drug dealer after that? I mean, yeah, maybe you could, hand ties, but then eventually, when you start paying, $10 for the same amount that you could get at Walmart for $2.50, eventually it's going to be like, hey man, look, I'm kind of running short on dough this month. So I actually already got my, my squeeze over at Walmart, sorry, dude. And like I feel like once it becomes legalized and regulated, and then it becomes more of a, corporate thing, you'll see a lot less of the illegal part of it going away. Or, well, you'll see a lot of the illegal part of it going away. All the people who are not registered, drug dealers.
All it changes is that the cops can't charge people that have it on them.
That's all. That's not the case, though. There's so much more that changes because of it.
I'm talking about crime wise, like police wise.
No, and Jack, like, you can't, police officers can't arrest you for smelling weed, right? They smell weed
on you?
Yeah. They can't arrest you for it, right? They can't arrest you for being high either. But, if they do, if you get regulated for being, if you're driving while high, that's the same thing as a DUI. If you're, if you're smoking weed outside, like, same thing with alcohol. You can only drink alcohol inside a restaurant, or with inside fair lines. I feel like having designated, places of smoking is 100% not a bad thing to do either. If you regulate it and you legalize it to the point where you can't just do it constantly, as you want, but there's rules behind it, I don't see what the problem is.
It's impossible to regulate it in the way that you're saying.
Well, I don't know. I mean, are you happy with how the laws are right now concerning thing? I mean, do you think if we just stayed exactly the way that we are now, that we'd be fine, or do you think it needs to be harsher penalties?
I personally think it needs to be rolled back the other way. It's completely unnecessary recreationally, 100% unnecessary.
Yeah, so you're saying, like, if we went back to, like, whatever it was in the 90s when it was completely illegal.
It should be, I know, and again, don't get me wrong, it should be used medicinally. Nicole's dad used it, or still is using it for for his for a lot of different things for his health, right? And that's completely fine. Like, I mean, if it's medicinal and it's needed, then, if it's diagnosed by a doctor and it can help, then by all means, like, why not use it? But recreationally, what is the point?
Well, guys, what's the point of alcohol?
I agree. I'm with you. Again, I'm telling you that.
What would your optimal situation be then? I mean, because
anything that is mind altering, right? That is recreational. There is zero point to it. All it does is it feeds addictions, it feeds bad habits, it wastes your money, right? Money that you could be saving, you could be spending to better your life, but instead you're choosing to waste it on taking the edge off, man.
Yeah, but so far most everything is illegal, and in your state, recreationally, it's illegal. So do you think it's working?
Yes. Yeah, because the people that are using it, they're doing it illegally, and they make one wrong move or have it on them, and that's that. And then they'll complain about, but it's legal other places. Well, it's not, and it shouldn't be.
I don't think we're going to win with them tonight, Josh.
I don't know. We had some bad Apex games tonight.
It's not so much about winning it, right? I mean, it's like the idea is that, you're asking my opinion on it. I'm going to stand my ground and defend myself. I'm not going to just be like, oh man, maybe. Now let's talk about the main issue.
Why is weed so popular nowadays? And you want to know why? Fucking social media.
You think so?
Fuck yeah. And Snoop Dogg.
I don't know. Probably a lot of things that way. Yeah.
I mean, listen, it's like anything. People do what they think is cool, what they think is trendy, what they see other people doing. Mm-hmm. Follow the trends. They follow their friends. Hey, that rhymed. The point is if it was regulated in the opposite direction of where it's going now. I'm not saying that, like, you have weed on you, you need to be like charged as a felon, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think it needs to be like that. But fines, on your record, things like that, maybe community service, even things like that really make you think about the choices that you're making. Not so much like, oh, well, we need to put you in jail because you had marijuana on you. Like it's unnecessary, mm-hmm. right? But the point is that, again, you can't tell me outside of medicinal benefits, you can't give me a reason why it should be allowed other than the fact that it exists.
Or the fact that I'm a grown man and I don't want another grown man telling me what I can and can't do. Because if you think, and I think that we've gone over this before, yeah. There's not a single politician that I've seen that has pierced ears, pierced anything for the most part, tattoos, speaks the same way that I do, listens to the same kind of music that I like. Like, most of them, if they saw me, would think I was just a complete piece of shit. They were like, who is this scum that has tattoos and listens to heavy metals and has piercings and, hail Satan? Like, this person should be completely banned.
And they're wrong, and they're wrong for thinking that.
Exactly. So it's like,
okay, so what does that have to do with drugs?
So what I'm saying is, where do you draw that line? At what point do they go, because think of how much, if you just sit down and turn on a CD and have that just pulse through your mind, the emotional effects that it has on you, the way that it gets your brain to think and different things, that's like a drug. Maybe it doesn't impair you to the fact that while you're doing it, you can't drive a car in the same way. But at the same time,
it's not mind altering. I'm sorry.
Oh, maybe not to you, but to me, it is. And so, like, I'm saying that in one way, there's a person that's standing here going, you can have, okay, I'll allow you to have heavy metal music, but I'm not going to allow you to have.
That's not that you can't make that connection.
You can, because there's a million different things that you have to choose from, and you have to legalize or regulate in the country.
Listening to music or a specific type of music, that does not change the chemical balance of your brain. I can't go to you and be like, and test you and go, well, Josh has been listening to metal again, and he's not trusted to behind a heavy machinery. Like, that's not how it works.
No, and so if someone smokes weed and they get behind a car and they kill somebody, then yes, you should be punished for that because you're driving under the influence. But you're talking about if I'm sitting here in my room right now and I were to smoke weed and be here in my room right now and not do anything, that would have a short-term effect on myself. But I can go out there and I can pay someone to draw on my skin that will last until I die, and that's okay to do? Like,
it's okay to do because it's okay to do because that choice does not affect anybody. And you might think that, like, okay, smoking weed in your room might not have an effect on you, and maybe the first time, maybe it doesn't. Maybe the second time it doesn't. But you're literally physically changing the chemical balance of your brain, and you cannot tell me that does not have lasting effects. It does. It's not. That's literally impossible. You're changing the actual physical makeup of your brain, right? Mm-hmm. Getting a tattoo on your body, that's your choice. Cutting your hair, dyeing your hair, getting a piercing in your face, listening to certain kind of music, doing X, Y, Z, all of those are personal choices that do not affect other people around you. And the politician can look at you and go, you're a piece of shit. You look like a freak. And you can look at him and go, well, you look like a middle-aged white guy that lives in suburbia. You're a piece of shit. You're a freak. I bet you've never... I bet you have sex with your wife missionary and that's it. Like, I don't know, whatever. Like, the whole point is like, everybody's going to judge each other anyway, but those things have nothing to do with the substances that we're talking about that will actually physically change the makeup of your brain and cause all kinds of other things. It's a domino effect. Whether you think that like, okay, smoking a little bit of weed here is fine, no big deal, but it's the grand scheme of things, because you might be an upstanding citizen and you might only use it just a little bit whenever you need to like relax at home and get in the tub. But 99% of people that are going to smoke it, that are going to use it, are not going to act that way. And if it was not around, that number drastically goes down. And I know that, yes, you're going to say people still do it anyway. They do it now and it's illegal. Yes, they do it now and it's illegal, and they'll do it if it was legal. Those people still do it. But opening it up to everybody, right? Mm-hmm. It's not going to go down. The use doesn't go down once you open it up to everybody.
According to the department, 21.2% of Colorado high school students surveyed in 2015 had used marijuana during the preceding 30 days, down from 22% in 2011, the year before voters statewide approved recreational cannabis use by adults 21 and older. So in Colorado, when they legalized it,
6 years later, they did another test.
So they went from 2011, when it was legalized, or right before it was legalized, it was at 22% of high school students had said that they had used it in the past 30 days. In 2015, 4 years later, they saw a 0.8% decrease.
0.8%. Probably because those people got old and left. The college kids left the state.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, so you're throwing out things based on what you said, that you think that use would go up if it were legalized. And what I'm saying right here is this right here.
There's no way. 0.8%, 6 years later, you're trying to tell me that's solid evidence that it wouldn't. I guarantee you, if they did that same test that next year, that it would have been triple the percentage. Instead of 22%, it would be 63%.
Okay. Well, and that's why, like, if we're going to like throw out different things like that, we need to have numbers present, because there are numbers done for Colorado, for California, and stuff like that discussing all this. But I think we've beat a dead horse enough for tonight, because like I said, it's a lot of what we're saying right now is based off of personal opinions and not going off the facts. And what we have right now, based on different countries running these kind of tests, like I said, looking up the Portugal decriminalization of drugs and reading up on that study is mind-blowing and fascinating, the amount of people that were able to get helped and get off of drugs because of that, compared to what we do here, where we just, throw you in prison for the rest of your life.
So I'm going to bring a little bit of my childhood and get a little religious on you guys' ass real quick.
Perfect.
Jack, you'll probably be familiar with some of this kind of stuff too. So Josh, you're talking about tattooing, and everything like that, mm-hmm. about how, having to stay in the mind. In the Bible, you got Leviticus 19:28, which says, "You shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor tattoo any marks on you. I am the Lord." Right? Mm-hmm. Nowhere does it say you shall not smoke some bomb ass herb. All right.
I would also like to counter that before you continue. That in Revelation, if you're going to throw Bible verses out, in Revelation, it talks about seeing the Lord with his name tattooed on his forehead and on his thigh. So we're talking about Old Testament, and in the Old Testament, it also says not to wear. It also says in the Old Testament that you're not allowed to wear garments of two separate types of material. So
that's just why would you? I mean, I got my cotton pants, my cotton shirt. I don't know what the fuck you guys are doing. But
all I'm saying is that you want to throw out Old Testament things, you better say them in context, because a lot of that doesn't have any.
You got
bearing
Revelation
on
22. And the leaves of the plant are for the healing of the nations.
And then you have in Cannabis 35:62. Where it says thou shalt smoke that dank kush.
And then you've got No Scope 420 that says you shall not pull the trigger on thine friendly.
Yeah, no, I do agree that I think that our points have been made, and I don't see us coming to.
And it's about time you finally realize that you're wrong, Jack. Josh and I, we really definitely.
Like I said, until I make my PowerPoint slide with actual numbers from the Census Bureau and stuff like that, and even then, I don't think Jack's gonna believe me.
No, I won't. I absolutely would not.
Because I mean, I understand, like, and it's very easy to go, oh yeah, if we made this legal, people would use it. But just statistically proven with nearly everything that we've done this with, that it doesn't get to that way. I mean, everything across time we've seen from, alcohol, from drugs, from, things like getting onto prostitution now. There's different countries and places that have tried these different things. There are plenty of countries that have legalized prostitution and have a system about it. And when you look at that compared to the criminal numbers, as far as the sex trafficking and kidnapping and different things like that, that their numbers are insanely different. So that's one that I'd like to get you guys.
Before we move into prostitution, because I do have thoughts on that. I do want to ask you a question, right? So this, because logically, I just can't wrap my head around the fact that you think that the use would go down and not up. So tell. All right. So here, get this.
It would go down. I think it'd be exactly the same.
No, listen to this. All right, I'm going to give you a scenario. Okay, I buy a pizza. Okay. I buy pizza for five. Well, I buy pizzas in general for 5 people, right? And I say, only you 5 are allowed to eat this pizza, right? And it's in the cafeteria. And maybe about 15 minutes later, I say, all right, I just announce it. All right, anybody in this room can have pizza. Do you think that the number of people eating the pizza would go up, down, or stay the same?
I understand what you're saying there, and
answer the question. Answer the question.
I think immediately you're going to have an increase.
Immediately you're going to have an increase, right? It's going to go from 5 people eating up to until there's no pizza left, right?
But that's saying that the 5 people, when you said that only you 5 people could have it, are the only people that are actually getting it. When really, if you let those 5 people in, you go, okay, only you 5 are allowed to have it. The other 50 people that are waiting outside, someone else that's not the cafeteria lady is giving them the pizza out there. So all of a sudden you go, okay, now you guys can all have it. They're like, that's cool. We already ate some outside before we came in.
But in this scenario, those 5 people that are eating the pizza are the ones doing it illegally.
But that's saying that if you could 100% that only the 5 people that were allowed to have it could have it, in a perfect scenario, in a perfect world, then yes, your scenario makes sense. But the fact that literally everybody that's waiting outside the cafeteria that's not allowed to have it is still eating pizza outside. Maybe they're having, I don't know, Little Caesars, the cheaper, crappier version, because
you're missing the point. You're 100% missing the point. The 5 people in this scenario that I'm saying are eating pizza. That includes the people that are doing it illegally and legally. The ones outside not eating the pizza, those are the ones that aren't doing it because either of choice or because it's illegal. And so as soon as you make it legal, those people are also joining the people that are doing it legally and illegally.
I don't know. With me personally, I think anyone at this point that wants to try pot or has, like, if you have a desire to try it, you've already done it, whether or not. Like, if it were legal tomorrow, that's not going to affect my choice of whether or not I go get it tomorrow or not. Like, 0% with me. I think most of the people that have tried it or have wanted to try it have already tried it. I think it's so readily available that you can literally be at a friend's house party and have someone go, hey, do you want to hit? And you're like, yeah, I'll try it. I've never tried it before. Or, no, I'm good. That it's that easy to have it, that anyone that's wanted to try it has tried it. And just the fact of if tomorrow it's legal, like if there are any spikes in the stuff in California or Colorado or the other states that have it, it's from people in non-legal states traveling to those states to be able to get their hands on it, because in the state that they're in, they could be thrown in jail over doing the same exact thing. That just saying that it's legal, if anyone actually wants to do it, they could do it. Like that's just my personal opinion about it, just because that's how I would feel. If it were legal tomorrow, I wouldn't go out and buy it, just because I know that it's not something that I really care about doing. But that's just me.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on to your prostitution question.
Prostitution, gambling, any other type thing or anything else that you think should be taken off the docket or added to the docket. Is there anything else that you're like, man, why the hell is this illegal? This should,
I mean, look, prostitution, it's if you want to talk about it, people are going to do it anyway. People are going to do it anyway. So like, why not actually make it a taxable profession? These people are working and they're doing it as it is, and it just doesn't make sense anyway, because prostitution is technically just porn without a camera. So I mean, like, honestly, like the whole scandal with the New England Patriots owner, like, who cares, dude? Like, the guy's old. Like, if he has to go pay for it, let him go pay for it. If there's somebody that's willing to like make $100, let him make $100 off the guy. It just makes no sense. He's getting his name dragged through the mud, and he's going to have charges pressed against him because he, wanted a little pleasure.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't make any sense. And that's completely that's has nothing to do with affecting other people. That's personal. That's, to me, that's the same as like getting a tattoo. If that's the route you want to take, you want to spend your money that way, by all means.
Yeah, because isn't there there is one brothel still left, right? Over in Las Vegas?
Las Vegas has prostitution is completely legal over there. I mean, it's regulated. I don't know all their laws behind it, but I believe in the city of Las Vegas that prostitution is 100% legal.
I don't think so. I'm not mistaken. Chives.
What do you mean? So you think there's only like one brothel that you can get it in?
Well, from what? Because I had my old coworker told me about it. What was it called? Like Bunny Ranch or something like that in Las Vegas? Because he would go there to Las Vegas a lot.
I have never.
I don't know if he specifically went to the Bunny Ranch, but
prostitution is not legal in all of Nevada.
No, but in Vegas,
it is not.
Vegas isn't like Washington, D.C. It's not its own.
It's illegal. It's illegal in the following counties: Clark, Douglas, Eureka, Lincoln, Pershing. Prostitution is also illegal in Carson City, and Las Vegas falls into Clark County. So
let's see.
Nevada is the only state in the United States, though, that it is legally permitted in some form, and that it's can operate under brothels.
Okay, so so maybe that's the thing, is you can't just have hookers standing on the street wanting to get in, but you could have multiple brothels like the Bunny Ranch. Is that what it is?
And they're not. There's more than one, and they're far away from like major cities. It's only out in like the rural areas. Let me see.
All right, so Luch, continue with your thoughts on it.
What do you mean, my thoughts on it?
On prostitution and the fact of whether or not it should be legal.
That shit has to be highly regulated.
Highly regulated in what way?
Hell yeah.
Why?
Hey, they got to be checked out.
What do you mean? It's just like any job. It's background checks. So obviously for that it's like sex work. It's like porn. I mean, they have to be tested and all that regularly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But you go and try to find a prostitute on the street now, who knows what she's riddled with, or he.
Well, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it's one of those that this was one that really stands out to me just because of thinking about it kind of from this standpoint. Where like right now, if I were to drive down the street and I see a hooker standing on the side of the road, we got to sneak into some kind of hotel or in my car behind a dumpster, whatever. I don't know what's all going on there. We're like having some type of big business regulation where the money that I'm paying is going towards making sure that there are clean sheets that don't have, STDs from another person on it, that there is, forms of birth control if we need it, that there's testing that's done, that's making sure, especially the security of the women. I mean, most of all, if you look up anything with prostitution, you will find that most all of it currently comes from human trafficking. Almost all of it comes from human trafficking because there is a bad stigma behind prostitution. But the fact of if you get on freaking Instagram, you can see girls that are borderline prostitutes, like day in, day out. Go and check out my Snapchat, and if given the right circumstance, that they go, fuck, you want to pay me $500 to do something? Yeah, let's do it. But now if they're doing it behind closed door, like there's, unless they're going through the methods themselves to make sure they have a friend there to protect them or anything like that, there's so much like up in the air with it. Like I said, with a lot of these kind of things, like I'm not on any kind of side saying that I'm a fan of cocaine, of heroin, of alcohol even, or anything, or even of prostitution. But just the fact of so much when I feel like it's illegal, that there's underground workings of these things that are so much sketchier and terrible, that if we can try to do what we can to kind of bring things to light, to work on regulating things. And I understand that it's so much that depends on the government holding up its end of the bargain and making the right decision with things, which I don't think any of us have very much faith in them whatsoever. But when it comes from taking the power away from the coyotes, taking the power away from the cartels, taking the power, away from the mob, the street gangs and the pimps and those kind of things, and trying to work things through legitimate businesses where less people are butchered, or have limbs cut off, are branded, are taken away from families and sold into slavery, or whatever. Like,
wait, what?
I mean, look at human trafficking numbers and the amount of people. I had the number pulled up in front of me a second ago, but it was like the amount of people that are taken from Mexico, as far as young women, children, are taken from that and into prostitution, where it's like, because there's such a underground need for that kind of thing, where if you had in each big city that you had nice facilities that you can go to, I mean, you can fucking go to a strip club right now, you can go to a massage joint and they can touch every single part of your body except for one or maybe two. Like it's crazy that we have these kind of things. So especially when you have willing participants, because that's the thing. I don't ever want to see there be unwilling participants in any of these kind of scenarios. And I think that's a big thing with the prostitution, is worrying that someone is doing something outside of what they want to do or anything like that. And that is 100% against what I like. I mean, if you get anything from what I've talked about tonight, it's the fact that I want people to be able to do whatever the hell that they want to do, as long as, other people aren't getting really fucked over from you doing it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's yeah. Anyways, I think that, I was gonna say, I mean, why make all of this stuff legal when we can just hire more police or like hire more detectives, or like Perfect. Crack down more on the criminals?
I wanted you to ask this question because I had a perfect example to tell you about. Are you familiar with Los Zetas?
No.
Okay. So, of course, we have had many, many issues with drug trafficking from Mexico over to the United States. Mm-hmm. The United States spent $250 million having the United States military train a special drug unit that they were going to send into Mexico to take over and basically destroy the drug trafficking that was getting across the border. 100% of the Zetas all abandoned their post and switched over to the drug cartel side. So we spent $250 million training these people. So now here they are, highly trained military officers that are now all working. They went in, they massacred all the cartels and have billions of dollars sitting in these houses, along with the drugs and the know-it-all of how they are running their operations. And they basically...
Okay, when did this happen?
Hold on, I had it pulled up.
And there's got to be something else with that, because first of all, that sounds like a fairy tale. Second of all, if that really did happen, I doubt the government would have ever released that information as public.
It's the Los Zetas. It happened, years active were 1999.
Yeah, there's definitely something that's sketchy. But
it sounds to me that they hired Jimmy and his crew that was already selling dope in Mexico City.
Have you guys watched the new the Triple Frontier on Netflix?
No, I haven't watched that yet.
Okay, so basically with this, I mean, you're looking at people in the military right now. I mean, what do people in the military as a grunt? What do you make per year? 30,000, maybe with some benefits, maybe 35,000, something like that. And they're kicking in doors of people like Pablo Escobar down there into Mexico when they're fighting against these drug kingpins that are, stacked with, I mean, billions and billions of dollars lining walls. And I mean, fucking Escobar had like hippos and shit down in his little pool, and he owned like houses all over the place. Like, we're trying to fight a army that is so big and powerful that we can't throw enough manpower at it. And so trying to fight it the same kind of way it's proven over the years that it's not working. And so that's why I think coming up with a different strategy on how to work against it. I mean, the whole way that we took down the organized crime with liquor and the moonshine runners was we basically started regulating the business. We made it legal. We regulated the business, and those organizations fizzled out or changed what line of work that they were in.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that, policing it and cracking down on it is a better option than just being like, okay, yeah, you're going to do it anyway, so just go ahead.
Unfortunately, that won't ever become a thing because like the police already get enough trouble as it is with fucking my generation.
Yeah. All right, now we're getting into a whole nother discussion.
Anyways, the final boss was that topic coming up and rearing its ugly head, and then us stifling it where it sits. We'll have to touch on that another time. This has been enlightening, and by enlightening, I mean I am exactly where I was at the beginning of the debate, and I at the end of the day, I just hope that you can understand where I'm coming from. I can see where you're coming from, and readily not agree.
No, and that's the thing. I completely understand where you're coming from with everything that we've discussed tonight, because these are things, like I said, that I've spent a lot of time thinking about these different things, about doing the self-reflection in myself on why do I feel this way about this thing, but I don't feel this way about this other thing, and trying to make sure that I'm not ever hypocritical about anything or going, I like this, so I think that this should be legal, where, I mean, people are so incredibly different that it's very hard for me without, I'm stupid. Like, I really, if you want to ask me the names of all the League of Legends characters and the names of all their ults, I can probably get most of those right. But if you're asking me about like laws or statistics of other states, like, I don't know that shit. So I hope that there are the people that are making these decisions. I hope that they're making the right ones. And I just hope that, that we as just citizens are always doing, our part to do what research and that we can, and just having kind of an open mind towards things, But at the end of the day, I mean, I think that, what episode are we on right now?
25.
25. Oh. That I think that we have shown over this amount of time that our main goal and what we really want for everyone is for everyone to be happy and healthy out there. And that, it's the same way with, you can have two parents that love their kids to fucking death, and one of them wants to raise the kids one way and another one wants to raise the kids another way. It does not mean that they care any less about humans as a society or their kids or anything like that. It just means that they just have different ideas and ways about doing things. So even though, me and Jack and Luch, we may, disagree on some of these subjects, we still, want everyone to be happy and healthy in their lives as much as they possibly can. We just may have different methods to our madness, and that's something that I think is going to happen. I mean, we're looking at a small scale of a podcast of 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine the size of the fucking United States trying to make decisions on this stuff and having that many fucking voices out there. It's just insanity. Like sometimes I just think that, you know, the state level maybe needs more control over things. Like keep making things smaller and smaller and smaller where you have, you know, not so many voices going out. But then we even proved that you could have a thing as small as 3 people and maybe not everyone's agreeing on things. So it's interesting. It's fun though. And I think
this is why we need to have a zombie apocalypse so I can run my own community and regulate everything.
See, that's the thing. I don't think that we need
tyrannical.
That. I think that we just need to start saving up money. We're going to buy the bonus level commune, and we're going to have a kick-ass place in there, and pot's going to be legal.
Level commune.
And I will be named the sole dictator.
We're actually going to be sovereign citizens.
Oh no, there ain't no sovereign citizens in my Jackburg.
I'm the town bard.
Anyways, we've run on long enough about legalization and regulation, and I hope that you have followed us all the way till the end. And if you have, maybe you have some opinions of your own. You can feel free to send us some comments on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, email, you know, or whatever you might use to communicate these days. And let us know how you feel. We will be back next week with level 26, and who knows what that's going to have in store. But we've had a wonderful evening, and
because we don't know.
Or do we? We hope that you all have a wonderful week from here till next week, and from all of us at the Bonus Level Podcast. Good night.
Later, taters.
Later, dudes. 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 Later, dudes.